Olympus is probably the most hated map on Apex Legends. I'm not going to pretend like the other maps don't have issues of their own. However, in my humble opinion, Olympus has the most and the worst ones. In summary, most of the issues are caused by the fact that it's too open. So that's it, right? Well, no, I have a lot more to say about this shithole. I should not need to point this out, but there are some things in here that are opinion-based. I'm not saying that you are not allowed to like Olympus, like some people might assume. Anyway, most of this is under the assumption that Olympus is bigger than the other two maps. After digging around it a little bit, I found some people theorizing that World's Edge and Olympus are around the same size. However, because World's Edge is like 30% mountains, it feels like a larger map. Once you land on Olympus, one of the following two things will probably happen. You land with the whole population of China and a fight breaks out, so you probably don't have enough time to pick up a weapon. If you somehow end up killing a squad or two, there's a really high chance of you getting third or even fourth bodied. In scenario 2, you don't land with anybody, and because the map is so huge and everyone landed in the same location, there's a chance that you will run around looting for 10 to 15 minutes and then get either sniped or stomped into the ground by someone who saw you first from across the map. The fact that the map is bigger, or well, too open, but has the same amount of players, means you cannot run away from a fight. Not only because you might not find another fight for a long time, but also because it's far too easy to get sniped on such an open map. The reason for both of these scenarios occurring so often is because it's so difficult to find a fight on this map, so people flock to the sound of gunfire. You get third-partied because people can't find fights, and people can't find fights because everyone flocks to the same location. Now, this is just a personal bias, but I'm not sure how to feel about Hammond Labs. If you like camping there, don't expect your parents to respect you. There are games where you are just forced to pass it, and there's almost always a fight there, and if there isn't, one is probably going to break out while you're there, no matter how hard you try to avoid it. Labs is in the center, taking up a decent chunk of the area. Not to mention it's difficult to go around it because Turbine, Home Depot, and this portal make it difficult to take another route, especially if the ring is already closing.
That's why I give my kids
Apex Season 7.
a fool.
In all seriousness, let's discuss the most common complaint, which is the fact that the map is too open, because I have a theory on why this might be. Now, the map is either too big, requiring you to get a vehicle to get around, or they wanted vehicles and made the map around that. Which sounds like a really fucking stupid idea, but honestly, with the way this map is designed, I wouldn't be surprised. Unfortunately, the other two maps are too small and too cramped to have vehicles in them without it being really difficult to drive through or bug out, because there are trees and rocks and shit everywhere. You know, that thing we would usually call cover. You see, if we compare Olympus to World's Edge or King's Canyon, they have plain fields between named locations. However, in World's Edge and King's Canyon, there are loads of hills and rocks and places where you can drop down and hide. It's just far easier to escape a fight. In Olympus, the fields are very open and there's very little cover, and sometimes the fields are huge, making it really difficult to escape. If my theory is correct and the map is so open so you could drive through, that sucks. In case you didn't already figure it out, choosing to take the Trident is like choosing to make your hitbox the size of a continent. So I don't recommend using it unless it's to get to the first ring, and even then, the first and second ring are ones you can outrun. I am aware that you take reduced damage while on the Trident, but it's not very difficult to get sprayed when your hitbox is the size of a small moon. Also, I feel it's important to mention that if you stick an arc star to it, you get stunned for nearly 8 fucking seconds. Even if you get off the Trident, by the time you're off and have pulled out your weapon, most of your shield will already be missing, so you will barely have a fucking chance. This isn't something I've seen being talked about very much, but I feel like this map might be favoring some legends over others. This is just from my personal experience, but after a while of playing on this map, I noticed that I started avoiding playing Watson on this map. Now, I'm not sure if other legends are affected by this as well, but I'm only going to focus on Watson. Watson's fences can stop Tridents, which would be a cool feature and all if it weren't for the fact that the map is so open, so you can't lay a fence in front of a Trident to begin with. Some would argue that Watson is a campy character, but indoors is not much better. There are buildings where half the wall is an entrance, so you can't put a fence there because it's super easy to shoot it down from the outside. Other buildings have plants covering the entrance, or a fucking kitchen counter. Some buildings have a door on one side, but half the wall is missing on the other, so it's not very hard for people to shoot your fences down. Some buildings have 5 or more entrances, making it really difficult to cover them all, and others that only have 2 entrances have windows on each side of the building that make it really easy to just literally climb inside. On the other hand, I've seen a lot of people complain about the loot distribution on this map, so having a LOBA is pretty useful. There's 2 squads here. No!
Oh my god, is he still alive? He died! What?
Now, this last thing is something that isn't really an issue anymore, but it really bothered me when Olympus first came out. When Olympus got released, we were forced to play it for 2 weeks. 2 fucking weeks. That's a long time to have something shoved in your face. And listen, I understand this is probably done so that people can get used to the new map, but come on. They updated King's Canyon after it was gone for a whole season, and that was meant to last 2 weeks as well, but they cut it short. So why didn't they do that for Olympus too?